setting our motivation at the beginning of the day, at the beginning of any activity, especially at the beginning of a teaching or meditation session, is very, very important, you know. So we take refuge so we know what spiritual path we're following. We generate bodhicitta so we know what our spiritual motivation and direction is. Yeah, and that clarifies a lot of things in our practice. Otherwise you sit down and you're going, why am I here? You know? Well, yeah, what am I trying to get out of this? And who's guiding me? Yeah, I did crystals on Monday night, Sufi dancing on Tuesday. Yeah, and yeah, so I don't know, what should I follow in my meditation today? And we get really confused. And we're not sure what the purpose of our meditation is, what we're supposed to arrive at. And what I'm seeing a lot nowadays, and here's where we come to have what some people are calling secular Buddhism, what some of us call Dharma light, and then, you know, standard Buddhism. I would actually hope that, you know, instead of calling it secular Buddhism, because it really doesn't have any Buddhist tenets in it. Yeah, it isn't, you know, they say that they will only accept what can be proven. So if you take that stand and you start out from not being a Buddhist with our regular standard of proof in society, which is it's got to be measured by scientific instruments, which isn't the standard of proof from Buddhism, but in our society it is, then you can't establish the Buddha as a fully awakened one. So if you can't establish the Buddha as a fully awakened one, then you can't establish the Dharma as the path that leads to full awakening. And then the whole thing falls apart. So why do you call it Buddhism? Yeah, call it, I don't know, some of the people who were involved in it, call it by their name, ism. You know? So, yeah. So there's that. So I think it's important to know, you know, what direction, who are our guides in our spiritual practice, and what are we trying to accomplish? What are we doing here? Of course, when we first come to the Dharma, this is all pretty foggy. We've never even thought about it. At least I hadn't. But as you attend teachings and you hear teachings, then, you know, we should begin to think about this kind of thing and get an idea of what the spiritual path is. And believe me, the Buddha's teachings shake up a lot of stuff in us. Okay? So we have to be aware, we have to be willing to be shaken up a bit. If we want a spiritual path that agrees with all of what we already believe, then it's not going to have much of an impact on us or show us how to grow, because it just reaffirms our present opinions. Yeah? So if our present opinions are already right, why are we so miserable? Yeah? So, okay, I want to change, but then we hear things that, you know, they push our buttons and make us go, are you, like one of the standard questions is, are you saying that pleasure is bad? Yeah, I've heard that question so many times. You can read all the Buddhist scriptures you want. Nowhere does the Buddha say pleasure is bad and happiness is bad. Nowhere. Okay. We all want happiness. Okay. We all want happiness. The question is, what are the actual causes of happiness? We all want happiness. That's our goal. You know, maybe not giddy happiness like when you get a new BMW, but, you know, some kind of inner peace and fulfillment. We all want that. But what is the actual cause that brings that about? That's where we get really lost. Because like I was saying yesterday, you know, we run around all day thinking about, you know, arranging our duckies so that we can get everything we want from the external world. And yet we're constantly encountering frustrations because we can't control everyone and everything. Okay? So then we have to think, well, maybe I don't understand correctly what the cause of happiness is. Because I've been doing everything society tells me to do and everything my family told me to do to be happy. And it's not bringing what I wanted. Yeah, so what really is the cause of happiness? And it's so interesting to start to look at our life. And this is where we start to get shaken up, because we see how we are very attached to certain external things, really believing that they will bring us happiness. And we don't want to give up that belief because we're afraid, if I don't believe that chocolate brings me happiness, then what is going to work? Nothing is going to work. Okay. So I say chocolate because that was Lama Yeshe's prime example. And it was a good example. I mean, I love chocolate. Okay? But, you know, so this is why he put the chocolate cookies. So you look, and our view is that there's happiness inside here. Yeah? Don't you think there's happiness inside here? Because when I put this in my mouth, I feel pleasure. Yeah? So this is the cause of happiness. Yeah? You agree with me? Well, maybe some of you don't like chocolate. Okay. Then what is your, use chocolate as a metaphor. What is your thing for chocolate? Yeah? Maybe it's being around the people that you're very close to. Maybe it's hearing music that you really like. Maybe it's getting a promotion or having somebody praise you. Yeah? So think of what it is that you long for, and you think, if only I had that, then I'll be happy. And then investigate if that person, that thing, really has the power to bring you everlasting peace and fulfillment. Okay? When I was in school as a child, I have one friend, and we're still friends now, many years later, and he wanted a Porsche. Yeah, so this was 60s, 70s, I've got to have a Porsche, that is what will make me happy, okay? So he was 16, 17 at the time. You know, once you get to like 45 or 50, then you want a red sports car. Okay, at least the guys do. Excuse me, guys. But it's true, isn't it? You know, perfect remedy to middle life crisis, a sports car. Yeah, a sports car, an affair, what else? Yeah. How about women? What do the women do, middle life crisis? We get a lot of them at the Dharma, you know, at the Abbey. Yeah. The women are like, I brought up my kids, I did all that, I'm done. Now I'm going to do something I like. Yeah. So they have, I don't know, middle-aged women, what's your version of a red sports car and an affair? Maybe a blue sports car. Okay, but my point is that we're always looking for something outside that is going to be the cure-all for our inner restlessness, our inner dissatisfaction. And our society is built on that message. Okay? And it is patriotic to be a consumer. Yeah. So here I can talk about the World Trade Center. What was the advice we got from the president after the towers fell down? Be angry and go shopping. Yeah? We face a national tragedy. And how are we supposed to deal with it? Go shopping. Because it's good for the economy. Yeah? And that'll somehow soothe the pain of, you know, our country becoming like many other countries in the world, where we have to wake up to that. So to look closely at what we think happiness is and what we think causes happiness. So that is something that shakes us up when we come to the Dharma. So we start to we reevaluate all of that. The emphasis on motivation, also we have to reevaluate our motivations and see if our reasons for doing things are actually reasonable motivations and lead to doing actions that bring us happiness and bring others happiness as well. Because we're very focused on our immediate pleasure. So I've got to do what's good, what's going to bring me happiness right now. So I remember when I lived in Seattle some years ago, and there was a bond issue before the voters to raise the taxes for schools. And of course there was a big thing, you know, nobody likes taxes, which is ridiculous. Because if we don't pay taxes, we don't have public services. And we want the public services. Yeah. But anyway, so there was a big debate in Seattle, and there were a number of people, their kids were grown or they never had kids, so they lived in nice houses because they didn't have to spend so much money on their kids. And they did not want to raise the taxes for education because they said it's educating other people's kids. It's not educating my kids. So why should I pay to educate other people's kids? Yeah. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, you're the people who live in the nice houses, yeah, who want to protect all your belongings. If kids don't have education, if kids don't have extracurricular activity, you know, sports and crafts and clubs after school, if kids don't have that, what do the kids do? Because all the parents are working. Kids get into mischief. Yeah, sometimes they get into drugs. They need money for their mischief. Whose houses do they break into to get the money? Yeah? You know, you want to, we have to see that our happiness depends on the welfare of the people around us. If the people around us are miserable, and if our self-centeredness is contributing to their misery, then why do we expect to be happy when we're surrounded by a bunch of miserable, unhappy people who don't have what other people have? Yeah? Think about it. Why are we expecting to live in a wonderful society when we don't want to contribute to the welfare of other people? Okay, they should contribute to my welfare, of course, because I'm the center of the universe. And they should do my bidding. But why should I contribute to their welfare? So it's a thing that makes us look, yeah, at what is our view? What is our view of causality and how the world works? And then you hear somebody like His Holiness the Dalai Lama say, if you want to be selfish, be wisely selfish and take care of others. You go, what's this guy talking about? You know, take care of others, and that's wise selfishness? Well, yes, because then we live, if we take care of others, we live in a world where other people are satisfied and happy. And that helps us be satisfied and happy. Yeah, we live in a more peaceful society. Because people don't have to commit crimes to get what they need. Yeah. And you can say, well, some of these kids that go out there, you know, they're just doing stuff for the heck of it. I work with inmates, and I remember there was one man, he lived in Flint, Michigan. He was the oldest of 4 kids. And the family was a mess. I think both of his parents had substance abuse problems. And he said, you know, when you open the refrigerator and all there is a box of baking soda, and you have 3 younger siblings, you got to do something. So, you know, he tried to rob some store. And he was minority, so they slapped a huge sentence on him. Yeah, if he was white, he would have gotten a very short sentence. And he went to prison, and of course, he was furious, and he had a huge anger problem, you know, because of what was going on in his life and everything. And he really changed in prison. He went from maximum security to minimum security after he met the Dharma. And going from maximum to minimum is a big thing, because you have to go through all sorts of gradations of medium in between. And the prison system is not conducive for helping people to rehabilitate. Yeah. But my point here is, you know, if we care about others, then the people around us are happier, and then that is conducive to our own well-being. I was talking to an economist somewhere along the line, because I meet a lot of different kinds of people because I travel. And this guy was explaining to me that the trade deals that we do, like with Mexico and Canada and so forth, he was very much in favor of NAFTA. And he said these things are very good because if you want your country to grow its economy, then you have to have a market of people to buy your stuff. So that means that you have to, you know, if you do business with other countries, then in the process of doing business, you are giving money to the other countries. Then the people in the other countries have more money to buy your goods. Yeah? I had never thought of that, but it's true, isn't it? Yeah? If we want people to buy our stuff, we have to buy their stuff so they have the money to buy our stuff. Yeah? Okay, so what I'm getting at is to look at how interdependent we are. Yeah? We think of ourselves as isolated, independent people who are in control. Yeah, that's the way we think of it. And our culture enforces it, you know. We're told we're independent, we should take care of ourselves. Yeah. So we even have magazines called Self. Yeah. There's no magazine called Compassion. There's a magazine called Self. Okay. There's iPod and iPad and everything, because we think I is the most important thing in the universe. Okay. So we, you know, innately we have this feeling of being an independent person. And then our culture especially emphasizes that. Yeah. In Asian culture, your sense of I can be different because you grow up and your identity is very much as part of a family or part of a clan. And your sense of I is very related to a group of people, you know. I don't know for Asian Americans. I think that changes. Yeah? Half-half?
Yeah, it causes some problems too, because the younger generation has the sense of independence, wanting to do what they want, and the older generation feels like they have the ability to say what they think the children should do. And I don't think necessarily both are completely right, but that's a conflict that happens all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of standard for immigrant families, no matter what culture it is. Yeah. So, yeah, there's always that kind of gap, even, you know, for generations born here. I grew up during the Vietnam War. It wasn't like we were in line with our parents' viewpoint. Yeah. And look at what the young people are doing today here, you know, regarding climate change. It's remarkable. I am so proud of these young people. Yeah. And the kids that are working for gun control, the Parkland kids, and how they interacted with inner city kids, and so, yeah, okay. But it may seem like all I'm doing is talking about sociology, American politics and culture, but I'm trying to use it as an example for you to understand some Buddhist principles. The big one here is that we are dependent on other living beings. Yeah? And how we treat other living beings here and now influences our experience here and now. Also, how we treat other living beings here and now creates the karma that will influence where we're born, what we experience in our future lives, our habits, what kind of place we live in. Yeah? So causality is a very important principle for us to understand. And causality and independent existence in which we're all in control don't match. Because causality means you have to have multiple causes. I mean, for anything, this cup didn't have just one cause. I mean, there's multiple causes. We feel like we're independent people. When we look at it, we're very dependent, aren't we? Yeah? Our body came from our parents' body, and all the food we ate. Yeah? A sperm, an egg, and a lot of food. And that's the cause for this kind of thing. Yeah. And we feel, I am in control of myself. I can control my body. Look, I move my hand. How much of your body can you control? Can you stop your body from aging? Can you stop your body from getting sick? Yeah. Can you stop your body from ever dying? Can you make your hair grow? Can you make your nails grow? Yeah? When we look, we can't control so much about our body. And in many ways, our body controls us. Because when this body doesn't feel well, we get in a bad mood. Okay? How about our mind? Yeah, because what we call I is designated in dependence on a body and a mind. Okay? Can you control your mind? When we did the breathing meditation at the beginning of the session, is there anybody who did not get distracted? Anybody who didn't get distracted? 5 minutes we sat there. Could we keep our mind on one topic, one object? No. So we say, I'm in control. That's part of our fantasy story. Okay. Now we are responsible for some things. We talked last night about accepting responsibility for our actions. Yeah. So we can control our actions and our motivations if we make the effort. If we don't make the effort, then our mind just runs wild. Okay? So this is why we're constantly creating our motivation, to implant that in our mind so that it goes in and we can begin to form a new habit of making a new motivation. Yeah. Instead of what happens, naturally in our mind, because our mind is under the influence of afflictions, I see something I want and I grab it. Yeah? I want dates. I grab them. Yeah? I don't like, well, let's say there's horseradish on there. I don't like horseradish. Get it away. Okay? So because we're usually not so aware of our motivations, and because we don't train ourselves consciously in good motivations, then our mind is just, clinging attachment and greed arises, and we just follow it. Anger arises. Yeah, we're totally beholden to our anger. When anger comes in our mind, it just takes over, doesn't it? Totally takes over, and we are out of control. Jealousy. Yeah? Anybody like being jealous? Jealousy is so painful. But when it arises, can we do anything about it? Just runs the show. Okay? So this situation can be remedied, which is why we want to practice the Dharma. Yeah. Why we want to start noticing that we have some sunglasses on, and that we need to really question if what we're seeing is true. And so we have to start, the basic level is just with causality. Yeah. Do I think the things that I think cause happiness, do they really cause happiness? Yeah. The actions that I do that I think bring me pleasure and security, do they really bring pleasure and security? And so you have to learn about karma and its effects, and we have to start looking long term, not just my immediate pleasure, not just, oh, this book is beautiful, give it to me right now. But, oh, that book looks good. What is the long-term result of my grabbing this book if it belongs to somebody else? Okay. I'm using this as an example, but if you're doing Manafort-style business, yeah? I mean, these people are excellent examples of what the Dharma is teaching. Yeah? If you're doing shady business, you might have an immediate result of some happiness in this life. You'll probably have some unhappiness in this life, except everybody who does shady business thinks that the laws don't pertain to them, and that other people get caught, but they're too smart to get caught. Okay, but they get caught anyway. So, you may take this now, but then later, when it's found out what you've done, you experience suffering in this life. So the result doesn't just come immediately after the action. It can come later this life. And what I was talking about last night, it comes in future lives too. So we're creating now the cause for what we're going to be in the future. So the Tibetans have a saying, if you want to know what your previous life is, look at your present body. If you want to know what your future life will be, look at your present mind. Okay? So the meaning of this is, right now we have a human body. So this is in the field of samsara. This is considered a good body because along with a human body we have a human mind. Yeah? So I was talking about our cats yesterday. Human mind is definitely better than a cat mind. Yeah, especially if you want to do something useful with your mind and progress on the path. Yeah, definitely better than a cat mind, as much as we love our kitties. Okay? How come we have a human body and, you know, the cats have a cat body and the dogs at the monastery have a dog body? You know, it's because of actions we did in previous life. So ethical conduct is the cause of an upper rebirth. Yeah. So the verses I was reading last night about abandoning killing and stealing, unwise and unkind sexual behavior, and so forth, yeah, and lying. You hear that, Prez? Yeah, abandon lying. You know, these things are important to create the cause to have a human body. Yeah. If we don't create them, these causes, if we create the opposite, then, you know, you wind up with a cat body, or a gopher body, or a flying squirrel body. Yeah. We have flying squirrels at the Abbey, too. Yeah. And there's not much you can do with an animal body in terms of practicing the Dharma, because your mind, I mean, you on top of the sunglasses, you have layers and layers of mud. So very difficult for the animals to create virtue with a good motivation. You know, some situations possible, but most situations difficult. Yeah? So if we look at our present body, you know, all of us here, whoever we were in several previous lives, not just one, but many previous lives, we worked very hard in Dharma practice to be born with a human body, with human intelligence in this life. Yeah? So it's very important, do not ever, ever put yourself down, because whoever you were in a previous life worked very hard to get this mental continuum to where you are today. So don't put yourself down. Okay? So if you want to know what your previous life is, look at your present body. You can tell what the kinds of things we did in previous lives. If you want to know what your future life is, look at your present mind. What are our intentions? What are our mental states that we have now? Yeah. I hope they receive the help they need. So, what's our mind doing now? Is our mind creating virtue, or is our mind just in the, you know, dominated by afflictions which run the show? Mm-hmm. What kind of future are we creating for ourselves through our present mental states, through what we say, through what we do? Yeah. Did you ever wonder why you were born you and not born somebody else in another country or in another family? Yeah? Did you ever wonder? How is it born me? Yeah. Well, again, things don't happen out of nowhere. Yeah, things are not random. They're not accidental. There's causes that came before. Yeah. So previous life causes created the cause for where we're born now and what kind of body we have now, what family we're born into. Yeah, what country we live in. Yeah. The fact that we all have food, yeah, something we take for granted in this country. although many people in this country don't have enough food. But why, why do we have food and other people don't? Yeah. It's because of our previous actions in previous lives. When you're generous, when you give resources, you create the cause to receive resources. Yeah. But then, so often, the good things that come to us, we take for granted. Yeah? And our mind finds some way to complain, even though what we have is so unbelievable. Yeah? I find studying our mind so interesting. I say our mind, we all have individual minds, studying my own mind. How, when I look at my life, I have such a blessed life. And I always find things to complain about. Yeah? If you ever need somebody to complain for you, ask me. I'm very good at it. Okay? PhD in complaining. So it's so interesting. Why does the mind work that way? That I take what I have for granted and instead I complain over stupid things. Why? Yeah. Well, this is a function of our self-centered mind. Yeah. So this is one reason why we say our self-centered mind is our enemy. Yeah. It's a very clever enemy because it puts itself forth like our friend. Okay? Our self-centered thought will find dirt on anybody we don't like. Our self-centered thought will always side with us, that we're right and the other people are wrong. Okay? So whatever self-centered thought tells us to do, we salute it and we follow its instructions. But we never check to see if our self-centered thought is really looking out for our own welfare. When we start to look at that, we begin to see how deceptive the self-centered thought is. It's not looking out for our welfare. Yeah? It's total, what would be a good example? Something so deceptive. Self-centered thought is fake news. Okay? It's fake news. Because self-centered thought says, this person criticized you, you need to retaliate. Because if you don't retaliate, they're going to take advantage of you. Yeah? That's what most people think, isn't it? Yeah? If somebody criticizes you, if somebody, harms you in some way, you have to retaliate or else they'll take advantage of you. That's what self-centered thought says. So we retaliate. Then what happens? Okay. So this is the mechanism that happens in interpersonal relationships as well as international relationships. Somebody harms us, we retaliate. In your personal relationship, what happens when you retaliate? Somebody blames you for something and you scream back at them, then what happens? Do they say, oh, of course, please excuse me, you're right? No, they don't say that. What do they say? You can't say it. Yeah, it's a bunch of beeps. And then you respond with a bunch of beeps, you know? And everybody digs in their heels, and we, you know, have a big fight. Yeah? Our foreign policy. Somebody does something to us, we bomb them. Yeah? Like, what's the president doing? He said he was going to bomb Saudi Arabia. I have no idea why. We have no defense pact with them. It's their problem anyway. Saudi Arabia calling. You're talking too much about U.S. government. Beware, we're opening a file on you. Okay. So, you know, so you disturb us, we bomb you, then what happens? Yeah? Sometimes, when we retaliate in a personal level or on an international level, we may make somebody else so afraid that they do what we want. When somebody's afraid of us, are we going to have a good relationship with them? No. When somebody is afraid of us, they don't trust us. When people don't trust us, it's very hard to have a good relationship. Mm-hmm. So what is that? That's what they call winning the battle but losing the war. Yeah, we intimidated somebody into being quiet, but they're going to come back and get us later because they don't trust us, and they're hurt and they're resentful. So we have to look. Our self-centered thought told us that we have to retaliate, or else. Is our self-centered thought right? Is it bringing a good result for us? And we go, well, not especially, but what else can I do? Because if I don't do this, they will take advantage of me. You know, there's many ways, I think, to hold the line where we don't have to be violent verbally or physically in order to stop somebody from harming us. Yeah, there's many ways of expressing your own dignity or expressing your compassion to somebody in such a way that they don't take advantage of you. There is a Catholic priest, whose name I can't remember. Some of you may have read it. His book, Tattoos on the Heart. I highly recommend it. Nobody read it? Read it. He lives in the Barrios in Los Angeles. And he's Catholic with the Catholic community. And the crime in the community is, there's various gangs and so on. And he has a relationship with a lot of the gang members so that they trust him. He helps them out in various ways, not to commit crimes, but when, sometimes they need some money for food, he gives them food, yeah. He helps them, they trust him. And somebody once said to the father, aren't you giving your letting them take your advantage away. Aren't you letting them take advantage of you? Because you're very kind to these gang members. And he said, I gave my advantage away. Yeah. So for me, this is like a Zen koan. What does it mean? I gave my advantage away. Yeah. And he really meant it. And he started this thing called Homeboys Industries. So it started out with a bakery, and now they have all sorts of, cottage industries where the gang members can come and work and earn real money so that they don't have to hang out with the gangs. And he's received national acclaim, but because this is New York, and you people think there's no other world outside of New York. Yeah. Then you haven't heard of him, even though he's very famous. I wish I could think of his name. William Burroughs? Is that it? Anyway, somebody on your phone at Google, look up Homeboy Industries. So he started this whole thing, with the gang members. And he has competing gang members working together in the bakery from competing gangs. Yeah. So it's possible. Yeah, it's possible. If you ever study NVC, nonviolent communication, any of you heard of that? Okay, that's good. Was he from New York? It's what he suggests in terms of talking to people, is really good. And there's some examples in his books of people who have really, they've been, in a situation. One woman, there was a guy who was going to rape her, and she just started talking to him using NVC, having a compassionate intention. And the rape didn't occur. He let her go. Yeah. So there's ways, my point is there's ways to deal with harm that don't involve violence. Yeah. There's also just going to the other person and saying, I had a role in this and I'm sorry for my role. Yeah. Swallowing our pride and being the one who initiates the apology, sincerely. But we don't like initiating apologies because they started it, right? As a kid, every time my brother and I had a fight, he started it. But I got blamed because I was older. It was unfair. Okay? But, there's ways to initiate things that can resolve conflict and bring peace. And it's interesting because good relationships is what we all want. Good relationships, don't we? Yeah, we all want peace with the people in our lives. And yet, our mental afflictions interfere with us, creating the causes of peace with the people we live with. Yeah, because, our self-centered thought is one of the enemies, okay? It's one of the enemies that always says, you're more important than anybody else. we say, thank you for agreeing. And then we come up with a bunch of rules of the universe. Okay? So I don't know about you, I'll tell you some of my rules of the universe. Everybody has to like me. Yeah, it is illegal to not like me. Everybody has to like me. I don't care who you are. Yeah, you have to like me. Everything has to go the way I want it to go. Yeah, because all my ideas are the best ones. I would never have an idea that was wrong. Okay. Even if yesterday I believed something else, and today I believe something new, whatever I happen to believe at any particular moment is the right idea. Okay? Even if between yesterday and today my ideas contradict each other. I'm always right. I'm never wrong. And if I ever am wrong, it's somebody else's fault. Okay? Everybody has to speak well of me. Yeah. Not just personally. I want the praise, of course. But I want a good reputation. So whatever group I'm in, I want other people in that group to know how good I am. So if my hobby is bonsai trees, I want all the people who know about bonsai trees to know how good I am making bonsai trees. So I happen to be a Buddhist teacher sometimes, not always. But when I am, everybody should think well of me. And they should tell how wonderful my teachings are all across New York and the rest of the world. And then everybody should come. Yeah. Okay. So those are a few of my rules of the universe. Okay, do you have some rules of the universe? Same? Except you want to be as a yoga teacher.
The most famous yoga teacher.
Yeah, the most famous yoga. Okay, we're glad. Yeah, I'll think you're the most famous, the best yoga teacher, as long as you think I'm the best Dharma teacher. Okay, fantastic. We're going to get along. Okay. And I have a little favor to ask you. Okay. Anybody else want to share their rules of the universe? We're with friends. We know what your rules are, so you might as well say them.
Oh, that my perceptions are always right, are objective. That what I perceive is the way things are.
Yeah. What I perceive is the way things are. Yeah. I never have a wrong perception. Mm-hmm.
I deserve to be listened to. I deserve to be listened to.
I deserve to be listened to. Yeah.
He's a bad person because I said so.
What?
He's a bad person because I said
Oh,
so.
yeah. So he's a good person because I said so. Actually, anything I say should go. Yeah.
I want to be talked about when I leave the room, but well.
Yeah. Oh, we'll talk about you. Okay, so he's the best yoga teacher. I'm the best Dharma teacher. What are you the best? Yeah, because we're going to talk about you after we leave the room.
We like that guy, you know, he was amazing.
Oh, yeah, okay. So he's the most amazing guy. Yeah? Great sense of humor.
It's true, he does.
Yeah? No, okay. See, other people agree with you. Yeah, so that makes it true. Yeah, if other people agree with us, it's true. Isn't it? You know, get Kellyanne Conway on your side. Sorry, I can't resist. That's why I asked you last night if it was okay or if anybody was going to get offended. But yeah, so we have our rules, don't we? Yeah. And when the world doesn't go according to our rules, we get very upset. Yeah. But we don't question our rules. Why should everything I want happen? Why should everything go my way? Why in the world do I think that? Yeah. There's over 7 billion human beings on this planet and countless other living beings. But I expect everything to go the way I want it to go. Huh? Yeah, that's a pretty ridiculous thought, isn't it? When you're sharing the planet with so many other living beings who have other ideas, who have other needs, who see things in different ways. Why do I think that everything should go the way I want? What a stupid thought. But I believe it. Yeah. So we look at some of the things. Yeah. Another one of my rules, nobody, I think I mentioned it, nobody is allowed to criticize me. Yeah, nobody. That one, really, do not do. Yeah, no one is allowed to criticize me. Why? Because I don't make mistakes. Yeah. And I never do mean things. Never. I never, lie or cheat or anything like that. So there's no reason for you ever to criticize me. Yeah. Why in the world do I think that nobody should criticize me? Yeah. Why? Why? When you think about it, that's another totally stupid idea. Nobody should criticize me. When I look, I criticize plenty of people. Yeah. Okay. So I have my PhD in complaining, and another PhD in criticizing people. Okay. So I criticize plenty of people. And almost every day I criticize at least one person, usually more than one. I don't get criticized every day, though. I only get criticized once in a while. Yet, despite the fact that I criticize so many living beings, I expect them never to criticize me. Yeah? Is that a correct idea? Is that a smart idea? That's another dumb idea, isn't it? That I can criticize other people, but nobody can criticize me. Yeah? Really dumb. So, when we start to question some of these assumptions in our mind, yeah, we realize how totally stupid they are. And not only are they stupid, but we suffer because of them. And we want ourselves to be happy, but we think in ways that make us suffer. So here too, we have to stop and think, what really is the cause of happiness? Yeah, it's thinking that nobody should ever criticize me, the cause of happiness. Because what happens is, because I hold that as a foundation rule of the universe, that nobody should criticize me, then I get very upset when people do. I mean, can you believe that they criticize me? Who do they think they are criticizing me? Stupid. Okay? Then I get so upset. What did I do to deserve this? I didn't do anything. It's somebody else's fault. Why is this happening to me? It's unfair. Okay? I think sometimes those are the words American children learn first. It's unfair. Yeah? How many of you complain about things being unfair in your life? Unfair to you. Forget about things being unfair to other people. Yeah. That, you know. Yeah, when we become Buddhists and we're goody two-shoes, then we'll cultivate some compassion for them. But what about me? You know, it's unfair for me. Okay? So, yeah, the point is here, we want happiness, we don't want suffering, but we continually create the causes of suffering for ourselves in this life and in future lives. And in the process, we cause pain to other people too. Yeah? And then we don't feel good about ourselves. And what do we do when we don't feel good about ourselves? We drink, we drug, and we go to clubs and bars. I learned the correct vocabulary. Okay? So we self-medicate. Does that help? Yeah? When you self-medicate? No, doesn't help at all. Then we feel worse about ourselves. Okay? So, saying all this, we should not use this as a way to blame ourselves and tell ourselves how stupid we are, how inferior we are because we create the causes of our own unhappiness and inflict pain on others, and how bad I am, look what I do. Oh, this is terrible. I'm really the worst person in the world. I thought I was so good, and now I go to a Dharma center and I find out. I see how selfish I am, how ignorant I am, how I've created so many non-virtuous actions. Oh. You know, maybe I should go be some other religion. You know? Yeah. So we should not use, you know, as we're coming into awareness here about causality, we should not use it to beat ourselves up. Okay? According to Buddhism, yeah, guilt is not a virtuous attitude. Okay, repeat. Yeah, guilt is not a virtuous attitude. There's a difference between regret and guilt. Regret is You don't know the stove is hot and you accidentally touch it, you regret it. But you don't feel guilty. Okay? Guilt is another way to make ourselves the most important ones. I am the worst one. I can't be the best, so I'm gonna be the worst. Yeah. I am the most corrupted person, you know. I have no potential. I can't do anything right. Yeah, we speak, you know, we look at our inner talk, our self-talk. Yeah, I can't do anything right. Nobody loves me. You know, very extreme statements. I can't do anything right. I think you can make toast. Yeah? There's many things we can do right. How can we say I can't do anything right? Yeah. Nobody loves me. Really? That I do not believe. Yeah? I sometimes encounter people, you know, who are suicidal, and, you know, nobody loves me. I'm alone in this world. Yeah? When somebody suicides, it is so painful for all the people that love that person. It is so painful because they are well loved and they can't see it. Yeah. So saying to ourselves, nobody loves me, is a whole bunch of rubbish. You know, there are definitely people who love all of us. Okay? My cat. No, but seriously, really. Yeah, this thought inside, I am so alone, something's wrong with me, I'm unlovable, is so false. Because there's always people that love us. We're embedded in a network of other people who care. And it's a total lying to ourselves to say nobody cares about me. Okay? So as we start to see these wrong ideas we hold, don't use it to create more wrong ideas. Like, I'm so bad, I'm so guilty, I'm a sinner. Yeah? I led a retreat one time and we had a discussion group about guilt. So we divided into groups of people to talk about groups. So there was the Jewish group, the Catholic group, and the other Christian group. Okay? And at the end, you know, when the three groups got back together again, we talked about it. And we started wondering who has the most guilt. Yeah. The Protestants didn't count, you know. Yeah. Although, you know, there were a few recovering Baptists in there. So they counted for something, but averaged in with the Methodists and the Presbyterians, they didn't come anywhere close to the Catholics and the Jews. Okay, so between the Jews and the Catholics, who do you think has more guilt?
The Catholics.
What? You don't have a Jewish mother? If you grew up in a Jewish family, you have lots of guilt. Yeah? How many of you are Catholic? Or were Catholic? And think that the Catholics have more guilt?
I'm just Catholic.
Good for you. How many of you are Jewish or were Jewish? Oh my goodness. And how many do you think Jews have more guilt?
The Catholic are born with an original sin. That's right.
Yeah.
The Catholic already born with a sin.
Yeah. They said, I heard somebody say, Jews invented guilt and Catholics perfected it. Yeah. But you know, so you brought up and you have that, you know, the Catholics have original sin, the Jews have original guilt. Okay. But, you know, and the funny thing is about guilt is that we think the worse we feel about ourselves, the more we beat up on ourselves, the more we are purifying and atoning. Yeah? So the more I beat my breast about how terrible I am and how much I failed and everything I've done wrong, all of that is going to purify my guilt. Does it? No. No, it doesn't purify guilt. Why should making ourselves suffer purify feeling bad about causing suffering to others? It's just kind of double, what is it, double trouble. Yeah? So in Buddhism, you know, we talk about purification. And, you know, there's a way to remedy all the things we did that we don't feel good about it. But we purify the negative karma. And we have regret, but we don't have guilt. Yeah? Because guilt really is an exaggerated sense of self. Yeah? I am responsible for everything that is wrong. Everything that failed, mea culpa. Yeah. Bunch of rubbish. It's totally exaggerating the importance of the self. Yeah, we are not responsible for everything that went wrong or goes wrong. Yeah, everything is a dependent arising. Okay? Have you noticed the word dependent arising coming up again and again? This is a big theme in Buddhist talk. Yeah? Things arise dependent on other things, dependent on causes and conditions, multiple causes and conditions. Yeah. So there's no reason to attribute one cause, because one cause alone can't make anything happen. When you plant a seed in the ground, I know you guys only visualize that. Yeah. Because like Singapore, the only thing you grow in New York is concrete and asphalt. But some places in the world, they have soil and you can plant seeds. Come to the Abbey. Really, it was so interesting. Let me digress for a minute. We had some of our Singaporean friends. They came to the Abbey with their kids. We were showing them the fruit trees and the garden because the kids, you know, had never seen fruit trees. You know, where does fruit come from? The market. Yeah, the market grows the fruit. No. So anyway, back to the topic. When you plant a seed in the ground, yeah, is the seed going to grow by itself? Does a seed in the ground have the capacity by itself as one cause to grow? No. It needs water, it needs fertilizer, it needs the right temperature. Okay? By itself, the seed can't grow. So everything we are and everything that happens in the world is a dependent arising, multiple causes and conditions. Okay? Nothing is a self-enclosed entity that can, by itself, make anything happen, or even produce the next moment of itself. Okay? We're completely embedded in an interdependent world. Yeah? And we hardly realize it. Yeah? So we have this notion of an independent self, which we aren't. When you really think about it, yeah, and how many causes and conditions there are in you being who you are. Yeah, we talked about the sperm and the egg and all the food. Yeah. The previous moment of mind, all the influences that we've had in this life. Yeah. We're a conditioned phenomena. And the things are conditioning us all the time and changing us, and we are conditioning other things and changing them at the same time. Okay? If you look at our sharing the Dharma today, this is an interdependent process. You know, you think, oh, she's teaching, so whether it's good or bad depends on her, and she has the responsibility, and I'll just sit there and judge. But, yeah, any of you do public speaking at all? Yeah? So when you do public speaking, how the audience listens influences how you talk, doesn't it? Yeah? It's an interactive process. We are creating what's happening together. It's not me doing something, okay? It's us doing something. Because sometimes you have an audience that sits there like this. Boy, does that influence how you give a talk. Yeah? So the audience response really is a big thing in not only how the talk is given, also how you experience it, how everybody in the room experiences it. Because it's not just one person listening, it's a whole group. Yeah? And if one of you starts to snore, the rest of you may follow suit. Yeah? And that will influence how the talk goes. Okay? So this whole thing of dependence, causality, things don't stand on their own. They don't make themselves happen. Yeah? They arise due to previous causes and conditions. So similarly, when we get angry, yeah, most of the time, we don't say to ourselves, I think I'm going to get angry. Yeah, I'm going to get angry right now. I feel like getting angry. Yeah. Somebody looked at me crosswise. I'm going to get angry at them. Yeah. We don't generate a motivation to get angry. We just get angry. It just comes. Okay? But it's not like it lacks causes. it has plenty of causes. Yeah. And when we let anger come in, we perpetuate those causes. Yeah. So it's helpful to think sometimes, you know, that it's not like I decide I'm going to be angry. Sometimes we do. Yeah, sometimes we have, oh, I am so mad. I am definitely going to be angry at this point. Usually we don't have that. It's the anger comes. And it's not like we really intend to harm people. Because as soon as the anger comes, the anger runs the show. And the anger says, go harm somebody. Go hurt their feelings. Open your mouth and say this, and it'll really get to them. Yes, sir, anger, you said that, I follow. Yeah. But it's interesting to think sometimes when you see other people being angry, that they are under the influence of their anger too. And it's not like they decided to get angry, and it's not like they decided, oh, I want to hurt him, or I want to hurt her. It's just the anger came up and it ran the show. Mm-hmm. So part of Dharma practice is we are, I'll put it in modern language, reclaiming our own power. We're not going to let, anger dominate us. Because just like self-centeredness, it's fake news. It pretends to be our friend. Anger pretends to protect us, and it creates the cause for us to get harmed. Yeah, karmically, it's exactly what happens. We harm somebody else under the influence of anger, puts the seed in our mind to receive harm ourselves. Yeah. So whenever we experience harm or pain, instead of saying, why me, say, this is a result of my own actions in previous lives. And this life, there was causal things going on too in the environment or the people around me. Yeah, but the primary cause is my own behavior in past lives. So why get angry and create more negativity now? Yeah, my anger is not going to serve me. So very helpful, you know, this taking responsibility for our own experiences. Whenever I was a kid and I misbehaved, my mom would wail, "What did I do to deserve this?" Did your mom say that? Yeah. How did I wind up like with a kid like you? You know, I could have killed you when you did that. Of course, I didn't believe her, thank goodness. Otherwise, you know, I grew up with death threats my whole childhood. Yeah, it's a good thing not to believe everybody, you know. Yeah, but to really check, you know, what is real, what causes happiness, what doesn't, yeah, and how much of this am I responsible for, and how much of it can I take responsibility for actively by counteracting the things that cause me misery. Yeah, and that's going to require some effort. Okay, so I know we Americans like things quick, cheap, and easy. Yeah, and you know, it's like, can I hire somebody else to purify for me? You know, They say that you do 100,000 prostrations to the Buddha. I'm really too busy for that. I have this big business deal to close. Yeah. So I don't have time to do 100,000 prostrations to the Buddha. Can I hire somebody else? Yeah. Can you do 100,000 prostrations for me? You know, and can you regret all my negativities for me too? Because it's 4 opponent powers. It's not just the prostrations. Yeah. So let's see. I'll pay you. What's the minimum wage now? In New York, it's 15. You raised it? Good for you. Yeah. We raised it in Washington State also. Yeah, but many places it's like, I think 7 something or what, very low. You know, so yeah, I'll pay somebody. They can do the purification for me. Yeah, they can also create some merit for me. Yeah. Here, you know, I'm a billionaire. Get a ticket to go to Bodh Gaya. You fly economy. I fly first class. But you're doing it for me. So take your economy ticket, squished in between, you know, 300-pound men on a 15-hour flight, and go to Bodh Gaya and make some offerings for me. Yeah. I'm too busy with my business deal, cheating somebody else out of their money. Okay. We can't hire anybody else to practice the Dharma for us. We have to do it ourselves. Yeah. I really wish sometimes I could hire somebody to sleep for me. Yeah? Because there's things I want to do, and I'm exhausted, and I can't do them. It'd be so nice if somebody could sleep for me. But they can't sleep for me. I have to do it myself. So Dharma practice is like that. We have to do it ourselves. Yeah. So here we are. I should look at the clock. Oh. So we have a little bit of time for questions, maybe answers. Yeah.
So when we make the effort and we take responsibility, are we saying I am not merely interdependent? I mean, how does it relate to the interdependence?
Okay. So when we say, you know, I'm going to take responsibility, we still are dependent because there's no solid person who's taking the responsibility. Yeah, we can't find some person and draw a line around it and say that's the me that's taking responsibility. And because just the act of taking responsibility is an interdependent thing as well. It depends on you hearing talk about this, and you're thinking about it, and you're coming to a conclusion, and you're, you know, putting out effort. Yeah. So, you know, when we take responsibility, we're still interdependent, but we're able to use the freedom that we have. So often we give our freedom away, but when we take responsibility, then we use our freedom to create the causes of happiness. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the true freedom is freedom in our own mind. Yeah, it's not freedom to go buy $500 worth of clothes at Macy's. That's not freedom. Okay, freedom is in our own mind, and that freedom nobody can take away from you. Yeah.
What's the best way to change a negative thought pattern?
The best way to
Change a negative thought pattern, just what you think, you know, leads you to your next life.
Okay.
You're habitually thinking like negative things.
Okay. What kind of negative things? Because there's different ways to transform different things.
So if it was such to me, they shouldn't have done it.
Okay, so holding grudges. Yeah. Okay. How many of you hold grudges? Admit it. Admit it. Okay. So one thing, the Buddha so frequently started talking about the disadvantages of doing something and the advantages of doing the opposite. So it's very good. Start out thinking about the disadvantages of holding a grudge. Okay? What are the disadvantages of holding a grudge?
Puts you in a bad mood.
Yeah. We're in a bad mood. The other person who we hold the grudge against is out having a good time. We're in a horrible mood. Who suffers most from our grudge? Me. Yeah? So that alone should be some motivation to do something about our grudge. Yeah. But also, to think, is my grudge realistic? Because when we hold a grudge, we want to cause somebody harm so that they will repent and confess how horrible they feel because how they were so dreadful towards us. Yeah. We want that, don't we? We want to see them feel so lousy about how they hurt us that they crawl into this room on their hands and knees begging us for forgiveness. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah? When you hold a grudge, don't you have some visualization of how you want that person to admit what they did and to regret what they did? Yeah? We have some visualization of it. Yeah. That they come in and they're tearful and they're so full of regret about how much they hurt us and how could they have done that and how much we suffered and will we please forgive them for what they did. They feel so terrible. And then we can sit and go. Well, it's about time you realized how much you caused me suffering. It's about time. I'll think about it. Maybe I'll accept your apology. Go. Yeah. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice? They're so heartbroken after what they did to us. Yeah. So we have this whole visualization of, how the apology is going to happen. Yeah. And is that going to make us feel better? Yeah? When we feel powerful, because we can rub it in to somebody else. Does that make us feel good? Does that alleviate our inner pain? No. Okay? So then we keep asking ourselves, well, what are the advantages of holding a grudge? Yeah. Well, for a split second, maybe I feel like I have some power when I dismiss them. For that split second. And so what? I have the power to hurt their feelings back. Does that make me a good person? Yeah, does that make me feel good about myself? Is that going to get me what I want? Yeah. And so we begin to see, holding a grudge is useless. It's not going to fulfill our purposes. Because what do we want? We really want peace with that person. We really want good communication with that person. Yeah, and holding that grudge is not bringing it about. And if you don't care about the pain you cause yourself by holding a grudge, those of you who have kids, if you hold a grudge, you are teaching your children to hold grudges. Yeah. I come from my lineage. On one side of the family is grudge holding. Yeah. My grandmother's generation, they had some kind of summer house that all the brothers and sisters shared, and we went there sometimes. I grew up on the West Coast, so I didn't get to know the family very well, but sometimes we went there. And there were 4 units on the property, and as a little kid, I wasn't supposed to speak to the people in that unit. I said, but aren't they our relatives? Yes, but you don't speak to them. Why? So something happened among my grandmother's generation where all those people, I don't know what happened, but whatever had happened on my grandmother's generation, which was before I was born, whatever it was meant that I can't speak to those people. Yeah, very logical, isn't it? But what happened by those siblings not speaking to each other is they taught my parents' generation. Yeah, they set the example. They didn't verbally tell the kids, but they set the example that siblings quarrel and don't speak to each other. So after some years, on my mother's side, my other mothers and uncles didn't speak to each other. I won't go into all the details. It's enough to make me a Buddhist. Because I don't want to be like that. So then you have my parents' generation, the different siblings not speaking to each other. I thought, that will never happen, my generation, until it happened. Then some cousins in one family, they don't speak to each other. Yeah, I won't tell you what happened after my parents died. It just set this example for my generation of siblings not speaking to each other. And I'm sure because of the parents setting the example, their kids will not speak to each other when they become adults. Okay? When we saw Yugoslavia fall apart and everybody starting to kill each other, it was over things that happened 300 years ago, when none of the people who who are fighting now were alive. But because your ancestors did this to my ancestors, we're going to have a war with you. And so you also have whole groups of people holding grudges against other groups of people. The Jews know this very well, don't we? Yeah? What do they say? Jewish holidays. They tried to kill us, we won, let's eat. Yeah? Everybody's going to persecute us. And you grow up with a persecution mentality. That also made me a Buddhist. Yeah, I didn't want to grow up like that. But what I'm getting at is when you really think, when you hold a grudge, whether it's a personal grudge or a grudge against a group of people or another country or whatever it is, who suffers from it? Yeah? And what are you teaching your kids? You want your kids to be happy, don't you? Setting an example for them of holding grudges against relatives or groups of people or whatever, that is not going to bring happiness to your kids as they grow up. Yeah? So I say this because very often parents will change things for the sake of their kids that they won't even change for their own sake. Yeah? Because your kids depend on you, and this is how you influence them. So it's important. Please don't be like my family. Really. Yeah.
So I think my question is, everything is interdependent, right? Everything arises dependently on other things. How is the enlightened mind dependent on things that are not enlightened? I can see how it is dependent on itself, like previous moments of mind, but how is the mind of an enlightened being also interdependent with things that are not at that level that
Okay.
are...
Okay. So, does a Buddha perceive objects?
I think so.
Yeah. Does a Buddha perceive sentient beings?
Yes.
Are sentient beings pure at the Buddha's level?
Oh, yes. You can see them,
Yeah.
their pure nature.
Yeah. Well, he also sees all of our rotten things too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Buddha doesn't stick his head in the sand. Okay. So a Buddha's mind has objects. Objects are one of the causes for a consciousness that perceives those objects. Okay? So, yeah, the Buddha perceives all the things that we perceive.
So the enlightened being is interdependent with the pure nature of all other sentient beings? Or
Also, okay, when you perceive a book, is the book a cause of your perception for the book?
Yes.
Okay. When a Buddha sees a sentient being overwhelmed by anger, okay? You get it? Yeah. Okay. So also, the designation Buddha depends on the existence of sentient beings. Yeah? Without sentient beings, then a Buddha couldn't create, somebody can't create compassion, so they can't even become a Buddha. And, you know, it's like employer and employee, or parent and child, or doctor and patient. You know, being one necessitates the existence of the other. You can't be a parent without there being a kid. Yeah? You can't be a kid without having a parent. So you can't be a Buddha unless there's sentient beings. You become an awakened being in comparison to a sentient being. Okay? And a Buddha came from a sentient being. Nobody was born as a pure Buddha. Everybody becomes Buddhas. Okay? Yeah.
It's kind of a big one, I think, or at least for me. So when I'm thinking about, when you were talking about karma and the causes that existed in past lives, as that where we are now is dependent on that. I'm in it, and I'm there, and I'm buying it, and then you get this bump against a question, which is, but wait, so the people who are suffering due to oppression of various, systemic oppression, let's say, does that work?
So there are things happening right now that cause systemic oppression, but it could also be, there's karma involved from previous lives. Okay? So if we think of what the Nazis did in one lifetime, they could be reborn in a state where now they are the people getting oppressed. Maybe they were reborn as the Tutsi, right? They were the ones that were massacred. Yeah? So maybe people who were Nazis in one life are reborn as Tutsis in the next life as an oppressed people who had genocide.
How do you not fall into then, because I'm imagining very much this is not the point, into, like I could see a pitfall into, I don't know if blame is the right word.
Yeah,
Like
they deserve to suffer.
Yeah, like how do you get
Okay.
out of that?
How do you get out of that? Because what good is wishing suffering on somebody else? Yeah, what good is blaming them? Yeah, nobody says, I think I want to suffer. Nobody says, I want to have a rebirth with oppression and difficulties. Yeah, it's just cause and condition. So we don't blame people for that. And we don't say they deserve it, because whoever they are this life, isn't the exact same person who created those causes in the past. Yeah, we should never, ever, ever use karma as a reason to say somebody deserves to suffer or to oppress other people. If you do, it's like coming across somebody who just got hit by a car, is bleeding in the middle of the road, and you come across them and you say, well, I have compassion, but this is due to your negative karma in previous lives, so you got to experience it. Good luck, bye. And you let the person bleed out. Yeah? I mean, come on. We don't do that. And if you do that, then you create the cause to have somebody, act like that to you when you're suffering. Okay? Oh, you had something. Yeah.
If it's not appropriate, then it's related, but it's not exactly what you're talking about. Like the reading choosing simplicity of the third, and the Pushara concept. How have you thought about how we ordinary lay people in ordinary life might be able to apply that?
Oh, okay. That's a good
A
question.
way of expressing regret or wrongdoing, and then kind of airing that and healing from that and moving on from that.
Yeah,
How
okay.
do you apply that? Can you share from your
Okay.
I have no experience with Prashada.
Okay. So what she's talking about, Choosing Simplicity, is a book about the precepts of fully ordained nuns. And as you know, fully ordained people, we do a ceremony every fortnight. It's called posada, or Tibetan it's called sojung. And it's one where we confess any breakages in precepts that we've had, and then we recite our precepts together. And it's something that's been done for centuries, and it's an incredible rite, you know, because if you really put your mind into it and let the rite transform your mind, you come out feeling a real strong sense of community and a sense of, I've made amends for my mistakes. So we do this every 2 weeks. At the Abbey, we have a posada ceremony for the lay people. And do you have it? Yeah? You do it sometimes here. So for people who have taken the 5 precepts, and even people who haven't taken them can sit in on it, there's a version of the refuge ceremony that I wrote up based on Lama Yeshe's teachings, and then things that I wrote about each precept. So you spend some time meditating together, thinking of the things that you want to confess, things that you regret, and then you recite a confession verse, and then everybody kneels down before a Buddha statue, and then recites this of taking refuge and renewing the 5 lay precepts. So that's one that everybody can do. Apparently it happens.
Yeah, we do it before medicine to preach often.
Okay, actually today is Posada Day. Yeah. Yeah, we do it, the Sangha does it on new and full moon days. If that's not so convenient, then you can do it 2 other days a month, as you wish. But